So my biggest teacher in this process of landing in my body has been my granddaughter, Elizabeth Dare Shelton, who is now 4 weeks old today. And she was born 3 weeks early, so she didn't really arrive in her body. Most babies kind of come fully into their body at birth, and then they contract back again against any kind of discomfort. They're pulled back out of their body into a more constricted kind of space and so on. Whereas what Ella did, and I've seen this happen with premature babies before, even though she wasn't really premature, is that she just remained in this very expansive kind of space. She was sleeping, suckling, smiling from the day of birth, smiling all the time, but quite clearly in a very, very blissful space that was much, much larger than her body. And then after 2 weeks, she arrived, and there was some momentary kind of feeling of like real discomfort. And then her parents, particularly her mum, has been just with her constantly, mostly just on the bed, quietly being present with her, stroking her gently, bringing her into her little tummy that was a little bit uncomfortable, breathing into her own body. This is Nadia, her mum, breathing into her own body to kind of settle herself. And as she did that, Ella would kind of calm down a little bit. And then she's been spending 2 weeks now kind of a little bit squirmy, kind of squirming into her body, and you can see her digestive system reacting a little bit to how it feels to be here. And yet she's witnessed through it, and in the witnessing, in being observed and being kind of held in that space, she feels comfortable enough to drop into her body, and then the squirming kind of stops and she rests. And I imagine that it'll take another good 2 weeks. So, that 6-week postpartum time is generally the amount of time it takes to kind of go, okay, here I am. It's almost like that's why we're given 6 weeks postpartum as what is sometimes termed the 4th trimester, and why in so many traditional cultures women actually spend that time cloistered with their baby. And it's not just to establish breastfeeding and to promote kind of good health in terms of protecting the baby from kind of pathogens and so on. It's actually, as much as anything else, to enable this baby to arrive and to land. And so for so many of us, we haven't done that, or if we did do it once, we've kind of pulled away. And so I, for instance, can live very much out of my body, disconnected from my body, and being in my body can be quite an uncomfortable experience. Sometimes it's filled with a sense of anxiety or a sense of kind of not belonging, or wondering what other people think, or kind of striving to somehow make something of this life, or be somebody, or get appreciated, etc., etc. I mean, these are all very common experiences for people. And then what happens when I land is that all fades away, it just disappears. There's the sense of bringing this vast consciousness of the divine into the body, and that consciousness has no relationship, no resonance with the anxiety or the feeling of disconnect, because it's completely connected. And so there's just this sense of going into this body, and with all of the imperfections of each moment, with all of the sense of whatever might be coming up around emotional, physical discomforts, there's a quality of it's perfect just the way it is. And there's a sense of allowing. It's very subtle, it's very gentle, and it's extraordinarily profound, because it changes this experience of being here into something that feels like home, that feels like, just this much. It's very, very amazing and very accessible. And then I look at Ella, the baby, and I think, okay, so if it takes her 6 weeks to do that, and if each of us put aside maybe 33 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, to really focus on this process of landing. And Ella does it full time. That's what she does. She might be sleeping, but you can see that she's actually engaging with this whole work of coming here. That's more or less 1,000 days worth of work for us if we're doing half an hour a day. And yet, and I don't even know if it takes a little bit more, because of the fact that we need to overcome the traumas that have been locked in our body through our lives. So it might even take longer than that. And yet I don't know that is so. I think that we can just do it. And maybe it takes 1,000 days of returning to doing it, to kind of be fully in it all the time. And maybe not. Maybe it's something that is just simply present and available to us these days as a new way of being in the world.